talk today about the book of Daniel, which is one of my favorite books in the Bible. Without Daniel's prophecies, which go hand in hand with John's prophecies in Revelation, both of them would be much harder to understand. And to begin with, the book of Daniel is the heart of the book of Revelation. And to see the fullness of John's visions, we must look through the eyes of Daniel, even though some 600 years separate the two prophets. For the book of Revelation of Jesus Christ draws heavily upon Daniel's visions. Jesus even called attention to Daniel's prophecies in the book of Matthew when he said, "When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet." In Daniel chapter 1, God allows King Nebuchadnezzar to conquer Jehoiakim, king of Judah, and carry off the temple treasures. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, unto Jerusalem, and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. Many captives were taken to Shinar when King Nebuchadnezzar conquered it. And Shinar is another name for Babylon. They were taken as slaves, and their slaves included Daniel and his 3 friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. The meaning of the Hebrew names of the 4 boys puts God right in the center of everything that happens in Babylon. Even though Babylon's king, Nebuchadnezzar, even after seeing firsthand the signs and wonders that God performed in Daniel and his 3 friends, Nebuchadnezzar continued to worship idols and false gods. The pagan king of Babylon had just gained another god to add to his many gods, and he worshipped them all, seeing nothing wrong with it. The name Daniel, as we said, means God is my judge. The name Hananiah means God is gracious. Mishael means who is as God is, and Azariah means God has helped. We can see from the names of the 4 boys that God is the center of their lives. And he will not only use them to judge Babylon, but he will help them to endure and even prosper in their captivity. For, as their names tell us, God will judge the world, and God is gracious in his long-suffering, and God has helped and always will help the faithful. For who is as God is? While they were in captivity, the 4 sons of Judean royalty, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, were taught the language of the Chaldeans, as well as the customs and beliefs of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar used 4 elements of identity to change the hearts and minds of the 4 boys. He had set out to eradicate their Jewish beliefs and customs and to convert them into loyal Babylonian subjects. First, Nebuchadnezzar changed their location. He brought them from Jerusalem to Babylon. Next, he changed their names and gave them Babylonian names. Then he re-educated them, replacing their Jewish heritage with Babylonian customs and laws. He even changed their diet, from a simple vegetarian diet to one of fancy meats and wines and Babylonian delicacies. However, the one thing that Daniel was able to convince his overseer not to change was his simple vegetarian diet, because it was a way for Daniel to stay connected to God. At the end of the age, when the time of tribulation comes upon the world, there will be many believers who will face the same 4 elements of fundamental indoctrination and life-altering changes that Daniel and his 3 friends underwent. Their location will be changed. as everyone who is labeled enemies of the state will be moved against their will into prisons, into training camps, and even into big cities to consolidate population for easier control. Names will be changed, likely to numbers, as in the days of World War II and Nazi Germany. The captives will be re-educated harshly, forcing them to deny God and worship the beast, and they will eat whatever is given them, though it is unlikely to be the fine meats of the king's table. Everyone will stand before the king, that is the Antichrist, and submit to the new world order, or they shall die. And the king spoke unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom and cunning, in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now they chose the children, the young and impressionable, to re-educate. And we see that going on right now in America. The government is re-educating our children, turning them into loyal Babylonians. They also use science. For the science of Daniel's time was taught by magicians, sorcerers, and astrologers. The science of the 21st century is taught by politicians, pharmaceutical companies, and climate charlatans. When we are told to trust the science, we might ask, what is science? Real science must be rooted in truth and God's natural laws. Real science must produce real results. In the latter days, it will be imperative for all believers to find some way to stay connected to God, just as Daniel was able to do by using the food he ate to strengthen his faith as well as strengthen his body. What better way to remain connected to God, the Father, than through prayer? No one can take that away. When the Persian king Cyrus finally released the Israelites at the end of their 70 years of captivity in Babylon, only 5% of the captives returned to Jerusalem. The other 95% remained in Babylon, giving up their portion of the promised land, their inheritance from God. Even Daniel stayed in Babylon and never saw Jerusalem again. And then when Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams that troubled his spirits and he could not sleep, he called forth all the Chaldeans, all those scientists, the magicians, the astrologers, the sorcerers, but none of them could interpret or tell him his dream. The king was so enraged by their inability to tell the meaning of the dream that he called for the executioner to put them all to death. When Daniel heard that he and his 3 friends were to be executed along with the Chaldean advisors, he asked the king for a little time, after which he would tell him the dream and its meaning. God then revealed the secret of the dream to Daniel in a night vision, in a dream. Daniel then blessed the name of God and told the dream and its meaning to the king. He made sure that Nebuchadnezzar knew that the secret of the dream was being revealed by God and not by him, not by Daniel. Daniel answered in the presence of the king and said, "The secret which the king hath demanded cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, the soothsayers show unto the king. But there is a God in heaven that reveals secrets, and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and the visions of thy head upon thy bed are these. Now, before getting into the future meaning of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, it is important to explain that I am not changing any interpretations that Daniel revealed to the king of Babylon, for his interpretations are true. Bible prophecies, though, often have immediate fulfillment and a future fulfillment, such as the case with the prophecies of Daniel. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. It is through hindsight, while looking through the lens of history, that knowledge is increased. And something that was incomprehensible in the past becomes clear and present in the future. And he changes the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He gives wisdom unto the wise and knowledge to them that know understanding. He reveals the deep and secret things. He knows what is in the darkness, and the light dwells with him. God reveals the deep and secret things when it is time to reveal them. When the time is right, God opens the sealed books, and wisdom and knowledge are given to those who have eyes to see and ears to hear. The hidden meaning of the great statue has caused a lot of angst among those Bible scholars who stand upon the shoulders of interpretations that have been around for centuries. It is often difficult to take something out of the box and brush away the layers of dust. For once the dust settles, whatever lies beneath is hidden, and truth, like that dust, is settled. Maybe it's time to unpack the box. Brush off the dust and see what is hidden beneath the surface in future prophecies for our time. However, there is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what will take place in the latter days. While the dream has that immediate or timely fulfillment, that may include the four nations of traditional interpretation, that is Babylon, Media, Persia, Greece, and Rome. It is clearly stated in Daniel that Nebuchadnezzar's dream is a future prophecy for the latter days. That is the purpose of the king's dream, to reveal the future and final destruction of the world system of Babylon. There is nothing in the Bible that specifically tells us that the separate metals of the statue represent entirely different kingdoms with different names. Therefore, the statue of many metals could be the representation of a single empire, Babylon. Instead of four separate empires, the statue could be the image of Babylon, a single empire depicted in four different stages of power, from the heights of its glory, that is its golden head, to the decline of its riches and power, to its downfall, and eventually to its return to power in the latter days. If we look at Babylon not as four separate nations, but as a world system of power and government that has existed throughout history, as a system that repeats itself over and over again with explicit purpose, being the antithesis, that is the opposite of Jerusalem. The meaning of the four different metals of the statue will change. It is, after all, a statue of one man, one empire, shown in its different stages of development, from the heights of its glory to the decline of its riches and power to its downfall. Babylon is a city, not a nation, just one magnificent city that ruled the world. The Bible even calls it that great city, Babylon, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. However, we are supposed to accept that the city that was an empire, yet was not a nation, and whose king was the head of gold on a body of different nations, is a statue of four different empires. In the ancient world, the most powerful empires were often called by the name of their largest and richest cities, usually the city in which the king lived and ruled. Even in the immediate fulfillment of Daniel's interpretation of the four metals of the statue, it is still just a statue of one empire, just with different names. It is a statue of the Babylonian world system of government. It is the same Babylon, no matter the name we call it. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. That verse is from Revelation chapter 11, and it concerns the two witnesses of God that are killed by the Antichrist when their lifeless bodies are left lying on a street in Jerusalem, where also our Lord was crucified. And they were left there for 3 days. Jerusalem is called Sodom and Egypt, both a city and a nation, for it is spiritually like both of them. Jerusalem will have the spirit of Sodom, a city, and the spirit of Egypt, a nation, in the latter days. Ancient names reflected the heart of the empire, not the name of the entire land it encompassed. Even though Babylon was but a city, it was the heart and home of its prideful king, Nebuchadnezzar. Calling his empire Babylon, that great city, merely exposes the pride of its king, Nebuchadnezzar. Perhaps we were only given the name of the king because it was Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and he was the king of the first fulfillment of the dream. Daniel could just as well have called the head of gold on the statue Babylon. It is likely that Daniel, knowing the prideful man who was king, feared for his life and told Nebuchadnezzar that he was the head of gold, just to keep his own head from being chopped off. But that is the end of part 1, so we'll stop there and continue